It's a very strange, funny time where everybody would love to be able to be themselves, but they can't because they must fall in line with the person in front of them. You want to live that kind of life? I wish you the best. I'll be on the other side somewhere, you know.
This series is made possible thanks to the generous support of TrueLove.com members. If you like this channel and you'd like to show your support, please go to TrueLove.com/membership to become a devoted or committed member in order to view the entire series. This series is one of the most important pieces of work that I have done. If my work resonates with you, this is the series that you do not want to miss. In April 2022, Johnny Depp's lawsuit with Amber Heard came to my attention. At one point during the court case, Depp was explaining how Amber would remove his boots as a ritual when he got home from work.
There were a couple of things that, I don't know, stuck in my head that I noticed that I thought might be a little bit of a dilemma at some point. For example, if I worked quite a lot, and when I would come home from work, I would come in the house or the hotel, and she would sit me down on the couch and give me a glass of wine and take my boots off, set them to the side, and I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I just never thought I just never experienced that before. And it became a regular thing that she did. This kind of routine. And I remember one night I came home from work, and I think she was on the phone or something, or busy. She was doing something. And so I sat down on the couch and I took my boots off. And suddenly Miss Heard approached with this look on her face. And she just said, "What did you just do? What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" "You took your boots off." I said, "Yeah, yes, I did. You were busy, you know." No, that's my job. That's what I do. You don't do that. I do that." "Okay, all right then." And then she said, "Let me get you a glass of wine." And she brought me the glass of wine. But I did take pause, of course, at the fact that she was visibly shaken or upset that I had broken her rules of routine. I thought that strange. And then once you notice something like that, then you start to notice other little tidbits and things that come out. And then within a year and a half, she had become this another person almost.
The story about the boots seemed so out of place, as did several other stories that were told during the course of this staged drama in the courtroom. Amber's melodramatic telling of her dog stepping on a bee.
It was just a kind of a surreal experience, and it just went away. That just got fixed. We walked out of the trailer at some point. My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet.
A photo of an oddly placed lock of hair on the carpet, the overemphasis of the mega pint of wine Depp consumed.
You poured yourself a mega pint of red wine, correct?
A mega pint.
Yeah.
I poured myself a large glass of wine.
Right.
I thought it necessary.
It all jumped out like a sore thumb. I soon found that much of Depp's life was mirrored in the film Dark Shadows, and that this story was also mapped in the stars. The stepped-on bee, the megapint, the lock of hair, and the boots were all constellations in the sky. This led me to investigate Depp's life and filmography, and I discovered an obvious pattern that revealed his God archetype. If this was true of Depp, then could this be true of us also? The answer is yes. Johnny Depp is an incredibly significant piece in solving this mind maze. The universe is a one song, uni-verse, you and I verse. It is a singular story told again and again in different permutations, translations, and from every angle. This story is literally written in the stars in the form of constellations. We are the stars acting out the story on the world stage. Everything in our lives is a direct reflection of who we really are. It is inescapable. In my video, Parallel Universes, I showed how our lives are reflected back to us on the screen. Actors manifest symbols around them to show you, the viewer, which God they represent. Many actors are reflections of the same God archetype, which is why they may play similar roles to one another on film. For example, Daniel Craig and Sean Connery playing James Bond. Your life story is repeated again and again throughout time, as we are stuck in the infinity time loop of cubed consciousness. All of your past lives are lived simultaneously, as everything is now. The mind uses both time and story as a way of making sense of this reality, so it spaces out events in a linear fashion. However, these lives are replicas of one another, and you can see all your past lives reflected in your current life. Gods are real. The ancient gods represented aspects of the forces of the universe, aspects of the mind, or universal consciousness. We are personified versions of that, living out our lives in the pattern of these gods. You can find evidence of this in film and television. Despite the wide variety of characters Depp has portrayed, he plays the same character in every film. Every film is a depiction of a real-life story he has lived and is currently living. I showed this through my comparison of his trial with Amber Heard to the film Dark Shadows. He may not literally have been a vampire, but the allegory of that story is what he has lived, and it is reflected in his current life through him playing in a band called Hollywood Vampires. Once you know how to interpret the myths, you will start to see these stories mirrored in your own life. In determining who Johnny Depp is, we must first examine who he is in real life, the etymology of his name, the symbolism hidden in his birth date, as well as his body of work. Then we compare this to the myths of the gods and the patterns in the stars. I have found that in some cases it is obvious to tell which god someone is, but in others it's less obvious and requires gathering more information. Once you know what to look for, it becomes easier to spot. The myth that was told in Dark Shadows was very close to that of Erebus, god of darkness. However, there were many other indicators that suggested Depp was a much greater god. This is why it was necessary to examine his personal story as well as his other films and not rely exclusively on one film. There are many myths that tell a similar story using gods of different names. Just as Depp plays many characters, so too do the gods, but they are representations of the same singular god. The Egyptian gods are the Sumerian gods, the Greek gods, and the Roman gods. They are also the same as the Mayan and Hindu gods, and of every other pantheon of gods known on earth, including the current pantheon of gods, Yahweh, Jesus, Satan, Lucifer. To complicate things further, some of the primary gods in the older cultures split into multiple gods in later cultures. When consciousness fell, these gods needed to hide, so they split, and they hid within ordinary people. In American Gods, they tell us gods are real. Gods are in America, and they look just like everyone else.
Gods are real.
Gods live and work in America and look like regular people.
In Westworld, Season 4, Teddy tells Christine she is a god.
I don't understand.
It's what I've been trying to show you. What Peter was trying to tell you. In this world, you're a god.
And later explains she is not in the world she created, so others cannot see her.
No, I want answers. Why can't these people see me?
Because you're not in this world. It's real. But you're not.
She hid herself inside her own world as one of the people and forgot who she really was. The gods divided themselves and hid within the bodies of mortals, forgetting who they are. The gods on Hollywood's main stage are showing you who you really are, some of whom are aware of who they are and that they are merely playing a role on the world stage. This is why it seems as if news stories and celebrity lives are fake or acted, because they are. Everything here is fake. But because we believed it was real, we took it seriously and we became attached to the physical as a real world with a real life. The celebrities are showing us that it's all a story, a myth, and to find your story from the stories they project back to you via the silver screen. My video called Story of Your Life showed how the movies tell us that we are literally living in a movie. In the making of that video, I discovered so many subtleties about the nature of this reality, time, and how it all folds into itself. Our lives are reflected on the screen. We live in a screen, and our life now is nothing more than part of a movie. That movie is entitled 9/11, or IXXI, as it is the true nature of this reality, and it is found in everything. 9/11 is the wake-up call. It is the emerge and see. We live in a trauma center designed to wake us up from our slumber because we, the gods, fell asleep and forgot who we really are. It is also the merge and see. Merge the two worlds and return to Christ consciousness. The celebrities are reflections of who we are, and they are aspects of our consciousness reminding us of that so we can wake up and remember. Some may not believe that film and television holds any truth, that they are meaningless entertainment. On the surface, everything is a lie, a fiction, a brainwashing tool to get us to believe in the physical world. But if you can see beneath all of that, you can get to the truth. The reason films, TV shows, and news stories and books are made this way is because they reflect the reality in which we live. Why is it like this? Because we fell in consciousness and everything is inverted, upside down, inside out. Everything is coded from the zodiac, the disc. The entire story of this universe is told in the sky. Like songs on a vinyl record, each era is represented by a different ring of constellations, which modifies the story and the names of the gods, but ultimately it still tells the same story because there is only one. The key to finding the codes is in the etymology of the words. Atom is atom, and everything is composed of atoms, the Word made flesh. And God said, it says in the Bible, because God creates from speaking. The world is frequency, and creation starts in the beginning, in the head, because all is mind. Thoughts become things. As we believe, we speak into existence. We cannot escape who we really are. When you are able to decode the symbols in your own life, you will see who you really are and discover your own star story. John Christopher Depp Jr. was born on June 9, 1963 in Owensboro, Kentucky, to John Christopher Depp, a civil engineer, and Betty Sue Palmer, a waitress. Johnny is the youngest of 4 children. His family moved a lot, and they moved to Florida in 1970. He was abused by his mother, and his father abandoned his family when he was 15. Depp left school at 16, trying to become a musician, and now plays in a band called Hollywood Vampires. He was also on the road with Jeff Beck after his trial ended in 2022, but sadly Jeff died in 2023. He married Lori Ann Allison in 1983, who was a friend of actor Nicolas Cage. Cage is the one who suggested that Johnny Depp become an actor. Depp has had a string of serious romantic relationships in which he always fell hard and fast in love, often getting engaged within weeks. His more prominent relationships have been with Jennifer Grey, Sherilyn Fenn, Winona Ryder, Kate Moss, Vanessa Paradis, and Amber Heard. He has 2 children, Lily Rose and Jack. Amber Heard has caused a sensation with accusations in the media of abuse by Depp, which were proven false in a court of law in 2022. John Christopher Depp. John means graced by God, which tells us nothing. It is short for Jonathan, and a nickname is Jack. In the film Benny and June, Depp presented a gift to June's brother as an apology, which was a jack-in-the-box. Depp is the jack-in-the-box. As I have shown in one of my videos, the Depp is often featured before squares representing the box or cube of time-space. This means he is trapped in time. Jack means Jacob the supplanter, Jack in the beanstalk. The beanstalk is Jacob's ladder, the middle pillar.
Yeah. Or someone sticks a stamp on his head and mails him to Guam.
John also means a toilet or a prostitute's customer. Christopher means bearer of Christ. Fur is to carry, so it means to carry the Christ. Depp comes from the French Huguenot immigrant Pierre Dieppe. Dieppe is a fishing town on the water, or deep. As I have shown, Depp is featured near water and fish quite often. His first 2 initials are JC, Jesus Christ, and his first and last initials are JD or DJ, disc jockey. Johnny Depp was born June 9th, 1963. June is the 6th month, so June 9th would be 69, and within 1963 is another 96, representing the yin-yang and the mirror reflection of it, which represents balance. The 13 in 1963 represents Christ, and his middle name is Christopher. 1 + 3 is 4, which represents heart chakra, also balance. This makes him Gemini in Western astrology, which is ruled by Mercury, and his sign lies between Cancer, ruled by the moon, and Taurus, ruled by Venus. Depp was born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Owen means noble, well born. Kentucky means land of tomorrow. Land of tomorrow is the promised land, which is the Garden of Eden. Depp's birth time is 844. John 8:44 in the Bible says, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it." This passage is referring to manifestation. The father that is of the devil is the lower consciousness. When you are in the lower mind, relying on the physical world to give you gifts, your father is of the devil. He lies because his voice comes from the ego. This is the voice we must overcome, one of lies and fear that prevents us from finding the truth, that we are God's and the true Father is within. 844 is also 88.
Hold it. Thanks.
Hey.
Yeah.
Depp plays many different characters, but all of them are ultimately aspects of the same God. It is by putting together all of these symbols and themes, combined with Depp's real-life story, that we come to see who he really is. As I reviewed Depp's filmography, I composed a short series of videos showing the common symbols and themes among them. Many of these symbols were representing constellations. As mentioned earlier, in the boots ritual, the photo of the hair on the floor, Amber's dog stepping on a bee, each of these are represented in the sky. There were many instances in which scenes were repeated almost identically across various films, such as in Dark Shadows when Barnabas met Victoria for the first time. This scene was directly reflected in Depp's meeting Vanessa Paradis for the first time.
With Vanessa Paradis.
Saw her back from about 25 yards away.
That's Vicky.
And I was just sort of staring at this back, and then suddenly it turned around. And the back had a face, and it walked towards me, directly at me, and just said,
Hi.
"Hi."
Yeah.
And then I just knew,
Enchanted.
it's over.
Surely you do not let them call you Vicky.
This scene was also repeated identically in Depp's film Blow when he met Penelope Cruz for the first time.
Hello?
Hello.
I know you?
I don't think so.
No? Why are you smiling?
Why are you smiling?
I don't know.
And similarly, how he met Billy, played by Marion Cotillard, in Public Enemies.
I don't know why you gave that fella the go-by, but awful glad you did. What's your name?
Billy Frechette.
And buy you a drink?
Okay.
This shows a pattern that is repeated in every story for Depp. He falls instantly in love with women who look a certain way, and he meets this woman in the same manner. There may be slight variations on this, but this is typical in Depp's films and in his own life. Again and again, he tells stories of how he falls in love instantly with woman after woman. He is known in his personal life and on screen as a lover, not as a womanizer, but as a lover. He even played the world's greatest lover known as Don Juan DeMarco, another JD or DJ. This aspect of Depp's personality is key in identifying who he really is.
My name is Don Juan DeMarco. I am the world's greatest lover.
Want to take that ride with me?
Yeah, I want to take that ride with you.
Stay away from her. She's Sanderson's fiancée.
Hello, Barnabas. Remember me?
Which?
What if I made you love me?
With what, a spell?
With this?
Another symbol that was common across multiple films was the train. In several films, Depp arrives on the train. A few times he meets a woman on a train. It's very easy for a viewer to pass this off as mere coincidence, but when the scenes from The Tourist, Murder on the Orient Express, and Ninth Gate are intercut side by side, it becomes apparent that this is the same scene told in different ways.
It all started when I met a woman on the train.
Well, hello.
Eyes linger any longer, I'll have to charge rent.
I'll pay.
I've seen you before.
Have you?
Yes,
Are you traveling in this car?
the next one.
The sleeper.
Are you insulted?
Disappointed.
What's your name?
I'm Elise.
Yes.
Green eyes.
That'll do.
What brings you to Venice?
You read spy novels. I'm a mysterious woman on a train. You tell me what my story is.
What's yours?
Corso.
Strange name.
I'm Frank.
That's a terrible name.
It's the only one I've got.
Maybe we can find you another.
Okay.
Some men have a good look. All they have to do is keep their mouth shut.
Italian, it means run.
You don't look like a runner to me. More the quiet type.
In the films Nick of Time and Dead Man, Depp played an accountant who arrives on a train. In Benny and June, Depp arrives on a train. The train is a powerful symbol of who he is. It is a silver serpent. In the film Ninth Gate, Depp meets a woman who told him of the Order of the Silver Serpent. This silver serpent is in the sky, and it is within you. Arguably, Depp's most memorable role is that of Captain Jack Sparrow, the lovable drunk pirate. Depp has played a pirate on many occasions. When he's not stealing someone's money, he's stealing women's hearts. Love and money are opposites to one another, and both represent gold. AU, your authenticity, your autonomy. The obvious portrayals of pirate are when he literally plays a pirate, as in Pirates of the Caribbean or Finding Neverland. But he is also playing a pirate in the form of a thief, as he did in The Tourist, Donnie Brasco, Ninth Gate, Secret Window, Public Enemies, Black Mass, Mordecai, and Murder on the Orient Express. It is less obvious in films like Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd, or Don Juan. However, his character in each of these engages in swordplay. The sword is an anagram for word, which is why he is a writer or a poet. The word, like the sword, divides. For in the naming of something, it separates it from the whole and calls it into manifestation. Associated with pirate is vampire and dead man, which Depp plays in multiple other roles. In The Professor, Murder on the Orient Express, From Hell, The Astronaut's Wife, Transcendence, Dead Man, and Nightmare on Elm Street, Depp literally plays a character who dies. Also connected to being a dead man or vampire is to die and be resurrected, as shown in Astronaut's Wife, Dark Shadows, and Transcendence. In Dark Shadows, he becomes the undead, a vampire. Less obvious incarnations of Dead Man is Public Enemies, Blow, Black Mass, The Professor, Crybaby, Nick of Time, and The Tourist, in which he has a bounty on his head. He's marked for death. But also less obviously in films like Don Juan, Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd, Pirates of the Caribbean, in which he leaves one life for another, or one identity for another. This common theme of double identity shows too who Depp really is. Depp is also often thrown in jail, which is another form of hell, prison, or the lower mind. He is often shown on or near ships or water. Water also represents truth, and Depp has been quoted as saying that the truth is the only thing that matters, and he has said this several times in many films, such as Don Juan and Waiting for the Barbarians. His website is neverfeartruth.com. Another one of Depp's iconic roles was that of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Depp is frequently shown wearing a hat, even in real life. I have also shown in these short videos on Depp that Through the Looking Glass is a common symbol in many of his films. The looking glass would come in the form of a magnifying glass, eyeglasses, sunglasses, a mirror, or a window. Also connected to this is the cube, which Depp has been shown to be pictured before in virtually every film. The story of Alice Through the Looking Glass was based around saving the Mad Hatter from time. The cube is represented in the XX of the IXXI. The cube is shown as boxes, squares, windows, but also as prison or jail, and in many roles, Depp is thrown in jail. The looking glass, prison, or cube represents the cube of time-space, which also is why Depp is trapped in time. The looking glass also represents the gap, the mirror, the reflection of this world versus the other world. As you can see, many of these smaller symbols are connected to larger themes, and even some of those overlap and interconnect. As being a dead man is merely a different form of being a vampire or pirate, yet to the casual observer, one would assume they are different. In the opening of this video, there was a clip of Depp at his trial with Amber Heard in which he recounted the Boots story. There were two moments that stood out to me. The first was when he said there are a couple of things that stuck in my head that I noticed, referring to Amber's odd behavior. But this is also a message to the viewer who has eyes to see and ears to hear. He is telling you that this story about the Boots is something that will stick in your head as something to notice, which it did for me. This point is later emphasized when Depp bookends the story with once you notice something like that, then you start to notice other little tidbits and things that come out. The Boots story was what made me pay attention to the other little tidbits and things that stood out. Did Depp say this deliberately as a message to the viewer, or was it scripted, or was it mere coincidence? Nothing is by coincidence. It's all scripted. But it's not scripted by a written, tangible piece of paper. It's written in the stars. This is his star story playing out. Whether Depp is aware of what he's saying or not is irrelevant. It is possible, but unlikely. One can be aware of one's star story and of which god they are, and still be unaware of the script they follow. His words flow naturally by divine inspiration as a result of the role he plays on the world stage. The same is true for everyone, including you. Having said that, there are many times in which Depp reveals his true identity as the god he is. At times, I suspect he's conscious of it. Others, it seems to be part of his script. One such instance is the opening video clip of Depp being interviewed at Cannes Film Festival in May 2023. In this video, he says, "I'll be on the other side."
It's a very strange, funny time where everybody would love to be able to be themselves, but they can't because they must fall in line with the person in front of them. You want to live that kind of life? I wish you the best. I'll be on the other side somewhere, you know.
He says others follow the crowd, going against who they really are, but Depp does not, because he knows who he is, and he's not of this world. He's on the other side. Depp was interviewed by his friend and theoretical physicist Lawrence Krauss in a 2016 event titled "Finding the Creativity in Madness," in which Depp repeatedly stated that he is mad. There's a moment in this interview in which he deliberately paused while explaining this madness, as if telling those who know that he knows who he really is. It was in reference to Krauss inviting him for the interview. He said, "I'm fucking mad," followed by a long pause while the audience applauds and laughs. Then he glances up at the camera briefly before continuing, which is a hint, or what I call a wink, for accepting such a wonderful offer.
Here's pure madness and creativity. He was very creative and very brave to invite me up here to do this. I'm fucking mad. For accepting such a wonderful offer.
Depp also mentioned in this interview that he has many characters inside his head that he wants to play, so he never plays the same character twice. Ironically, he does play the same character every time. In this clip, Depp explains how, as he played the character of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland, he improvised a line about how there are too many people inside his head. Even though he's playing a character, this is very telling.
There's a moment in Alice in Wonderland, the first one with Tim, the one that Tim directed, Tim Burton. I was chained to a floor by the Red Queen to make her hats. She wanted hats. So Alice comes to rescue me. And she says, let's go, Hatter, we have to go. And I refused, or the Hatter refused. And at a certain point, she grabs me and looks into my eyes. And the first thing that came into my mind was, I believe I pointed to my head and I said, I don't like it in here. It's too crowded.
I'm frightened, Alice. I don't like it in here. It's terribly crowded. Have I gone mad?
Afraid so. You're entirely bonkers. But I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are.
Depp says that when he was in high school, he didn't feel like he was on the inside nor the outside. He just wanted to be. Not being on either side puts him in the middle.
I remember reading the screenplay to Edward Scissorhands for the first time, and I was up in Vancouver, and I was doing that TV show, and I read the screenplay, and I was devastated by it. Because it represented exactly how I felt growing up. Like I said, not necessarily outside, but for sure not inside. I didn't want to choose any side. I just wanted to be.
Here, he states that upon reading the script for Edward Scissorhands, he wept because he knew it was him.
And Edward, when I read the screenplay, I found myself at the end of the thing, like, you know, I hate to say it, but yeah, crying, you know, like sobbing when I read that screenplay. And I knew that I would never be chosen as Edward Scissorhands to play that part, even though I knew it was me.
Then he goes on to say he wanted to know what it was like to be fascinated with the things that are most mundane.
I was trying to figure out a way to really get to the place where I could understand what that might feel like. You know, the newness or the fascination of things that are most mundane.
Being fascinated with mundane things, which is just like a line from the film First Daughter when Katie Holmes said she was experiencing things for the first time, is something that a god would say, because a god is experiencing the mundane for the first time. The story of Edward Scissorhands is the story of a young boy who was made by his father in a laboratory in a castle at the top of a mountain. One day he comes down from the mountain and is welcomed into the small town below. The people worship him, and he can do no wrong until suddenly one of the women develops lust for him, and he rejects her. So she cries rape, and the townspeople turn against him, demonizing him. He's thrown in jail and ultimately chased out of town back to his castle in the sky, where he kills one of them in self-defense, becoming the monster they wanted him to be. If this story sounds familiar, that's because it's the same story as told in Dark Shadows. Depp recently went through this very same experience in his trial against Amber Heard. It's also the same story told in the Bible, and Joseph was a goodly person and well-favored, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me," but he refused.
Edward! Edward, you come back here! You can't do that!
Since the trial, I analyzed almost every film Depp has been in. I made note of common symbols across his body of work and in his real life. In this series, I will show Depp's story as it played out in film and what these scenes represent. I will show you what God he is and why he is living the life he is today. I will also get into how you can apply this to your own life to find out which God you are in your current incarnation. Why is this important? Depp and the stars are showing you who you really are and your star story. When you know your story, you know your true purpose and how to complete your story so you can live your happily ever after. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please go to TrueLove.com/membership, become a devoted or committed member to make sure you have access to all the episodes.